Bethesda, WKYS HD3 Washington, WPRS HD3 Waldorf, and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
The topics, views, and opinions expressed on the air and via All Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine, platforms by host Barbara Arnwine Esquire, guests, and supporters are their own and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal advice counsel. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Igniting Change, its platforms, or the show's host. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Igniting Change. We are so happy that you are here with us today and that you are listening to this show. So we want to say good afternoon to all of our East Coast listeners. We want to say good morning to those throughout the West, the Midwest. And, of course, you know we just love the mighty South. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you so much for being with us. We have so much to discuss today, and we are blessed because we have some amazing guests. We are really happy to be able to talk to you today about our subject, which is calling all forces. Did you hear me? Calling all forces. Meaning we're calling you. We're calling everybody you know. We're calling everyone to discuss, to be in defense of the Voting Rights Act. And we have a model resolution that we're going to be talking about, but we're going to start our program about talking about a subject that I care about deeply, which is Black lawyers and their role in this fight for justice. And we have one of the leading experts in this country to talk to you about that. I'm talking about the president of the National Bar Association. Yes, I'm talking about Dominique Calhoun. Mr. Calhoun, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Igniting Change.
Well, good afternoon, my dear friend. It is morning here in Texas, but I am so excited to be with you all and to continue in this work that we are all doing to protect rights of all Americans.
All right now.
Barbara, it's really great to have President Calhoun on. Let me tell you, President Calhoun, I'm in Baltimore City. I was in circuit court. The judge said, I don't think you're going to make it. I said, you don't understand. The president of the National Bar Association is coming on. He said, well, let me stop everything for you. Because you got 67,000 Black lawyers. I need to stop things. So welcome aboard, President Calhoun.
Yes. Yes, I'm so glad, Daryl, that you were able to join us right off. And everyone listening, Daryl Jones is the chair of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and he is one of the mightiest lawyers out there, and he is also my radio co-host. So thank you, Daryl. I'm so glad you're with us. So, Dominique Calhoun, tell people, you just got in from Africa. Where were you in that mighty continent?
Well, I'll tell you, it has been a spiritual journey for me, an ancestral one. And you talk about the 67,000 voices or representatives that we in the National Bar Association take care of. We are approaching our centennial year. And for those of you in those Greek-lettered organizations or a part of much larger systems, you know how important that centennial year is. It's an opportunity for reflection to figure out if you have sustained the charge that was originally given to you so long ago. But then it's also an opportunity for you to look ahead and to say whether or not the mission that you've had is still relevant today, but also how do you ensure that your work is still relevant for the future. In order for us to do that, our Judicial Council chair had the genius idea for us to go to Ghana. And we took we took a homage home, and we went to Asan Mansu to see Slave River. We then left and took that sojourn from Slave River to Cape Coast Castle and Elmina Castle, and saw the doors of no return, the slave quarters that were there. And it was an opportunity for reflection. And as the black lawyer in this country wasn't allowed to practice before the bar, and where the ABA, which currently governs all lawyers, but where the ABA put in their governing documents that black lawyers were not allowed to be on the bench or to approach it, it gives you perspective. And then you talk about things like today, where the Voting Rights Act is under attack, where the Fearless Fund is currently being attacked for supporting women of color. We have so many challenges across this country and this nation that we're constantly under assault for being black. And then if it's not that, then it's under assault for the conscious effort to ensure that we are helping our own people. And so as we look ahead for the Transformative Justice Coalition, whether it's the NAACP, whether it's the National Bar Association, now is a time not just of reflection but of action, and for us to come together in support of one another, but for the support of all Americans. And that's what we're doing, not only today, but here in the future.
Oh, that is so awesome. And tell our guests who are, our listeners who are listening from all over the country and in 13 countries, tell them about why, about your first year you've been, president of the NBA. You're one of the youngest presidents ever.
Yes.
And I know that Julius Williams will, can't grab his phone if I don't give him credit for being the youngest, right, ever. But I wanted you to tell people, what has it been like to be the president of the National Bar? What has it meant to you? What have been some of those highlights of the time that you've been in office?
Well, I don't do this often, Barbara, so thank you for the question, but I don't do a lot of self-reflection often because I'm always, especially when I'm on the battlefield, I'm looking ahead to new strategies and how we can go. But yes, you're correct. I'm the third youngest president. I have no problem telling people I'm 37 years old. And generally, when you take the helm of this organization, your stature in the community and everything that you've done is well established. But for me, it has been an opportunity not only to bring up the bar and give it a youthful perspective, but to also look at and stand with all of these warriors, these voting rights warriors, civil rights warriors, all of these people behind me, and for us to progress together. So I will tell you that before I came into this role and before I started my own law firm, I was in government relations. I was a lobbyist. And so in that effort, I have had the ability to establish relationships all up and down every avenue of the government, whether it be federal, state, or local from a Texas perspective. And I've used those skill sets along with my skill sets in the practice of law to aid the organization. I can tell you one of the most controversial things that I did at the time was that I took one of our conferences, Wiley A. Branton Symposium, down to Florida. And I remember some people calling me saying, well, why would you do that? And you know the things that are happening within that state and how they are treating us in that state. And I said, well, this conference is named after a civil rights warrior. This conference is named after a man who solely led the desegregation of Arkansas public schools. This conference is named after a man who gave his life to the rights of to the rights of all Americans to be free. This is a man who worked for the NAACP in Georgia, in Atlanta to be specific, after he did all the works to overcome what he did in Arkansas. This is a man who was at the bench when some white litigants came in and tried to tar and feather him. You can read all about this man. Everything that I'm giving you is a man of principle, and he never backed down from a fight. And so taking that conference there was to pay homage to him and to also make sure that people from around the country knew that we weren't afraid, that we as the black lawyers were there to stand with our people and also make sure that we educated them about the challenges that lay before them as we are engaged in this new era of voting rights. And so for me, as you know, we reflect, everything that we have done is an attempt to be intentional. It's an attempt to bring relevancy to most needed areas and make sure that within all of our communities, they know that the black lawyer hasn't left them and that we are here to support and assist them in any way possible.
Well, you know, it's fascinating because I knew Wiley Branton. I met him and only got to work with him for about a year. And he was an incredible force. And and Daryl, of course, we went to Florida and we did the Stay Woke Florida rolling protest. And we supported the NAACP and others. So we understand, how hard leadership is, and it's so critical. Daryl, I wanted to turn it over to you for the next question.
Thank you, Barbara. President Calhoun, I was listening to all that you were laying out with regards to the National Bar Association and its impact in the community. Now, I can remember when I was in law school that one of the things that we really relied on were our relationships with black lawyers from the National Bar Association. Now, is there a word that you want to reach out to the black law students that are in school now, haven't quite made it to the point of taking the bar, that a responsibility that they should also shoulder as they're going through the process and coming through the doors and coming across the threshold to practice law and in our courtrooms across the country?
Yeah, and I thank you for that question, Daryl. Often I get the question from law students and young lawyers, why the bar? Why the NBA? I can go join the ABA. I can engage with my local bar association. Why do I need to join the National Bar Association? And I say this first and foremost, and with my youth, I think it gives a little bit more relevancy. You have to remember where you came from to know where you're headed. You have to remember how we got to the place where we could actually be accepted to practice in these areas that we're talking about. We have to remember that there was a time that we were not allowed to even be on the ballot box. You have to remember that we were at 1.3/5 of a man in this Constitution. You have to remember that there were black lawyer warriors who went forth, filed those petitions like Thurgood Marshall. You have to remember that it was so many individuals that came before us that ensured that we could be in the places that we are now. Harvard didn't want us. Stanford didn't want us. You got to remember where we came from, and you have to acknowledge that fact. Now, what my goal is as president of this organization is to remind my members, our board of governors, that relevancy also matters. So that if we are not engaged in these battles, if we are not putting forth the best effort, if we are not ensuring that our conferences mean something and that we are educating the next group of lawyers with these tools so that they can go out and become great litigators, become the next judges on the state or federal level, then we are not doing our job. Then we are missing our step. And I can understand if someone says, yeah, not for me. And so my goal has been to make sure that we approach, as I said before, everything with intentionality, and that we are giving the best work product to those who are coming to join the National Bar Association, that they can have the camaraderie to visit with those giants within the industry, but also get that education that's necessary so that they can become the greatest lawyers that are out there.
All right now. And, Daryl and Dominique, we got hard news today. As if it wasn't bad enough that we're fighting that Eighth Circuit case that held that somehow after 60 years that people can't bring a private right of action under the Voting Rights Act, especially the racial discrimination provisions, and especially to fight voter dilution in redistricting where they're just drawing lines to cut out, black power. I thought it was devastating to read that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has decided that they're going to rehear a case that I helped on in 1992.